It's not what contractors or most federal employees wanted, but Congress did manage to avoid a partial government shutdown last week. They only pushed the deadline out a week or two, though, to buy time to consider budget bills. Here with the outlook for the week ahead, Bloomberg Government Deputy News Director Loren Duggan. And Loren, before all of this, of course, we have been going back and forth with the fact that the bills are out there, and some of them have been negotiated by some committees and some chambers. What does it look like now?
So, like you mentioned, we kicked one of the deadlines from March 1st to March 8th, giving them a week to wrap up a package of bills. On Sunday, they released 6 bills as a one package that they'll take one vote on, and that will be before the House and Senate this week and try to meet that Friday night deadline to avoid that partial shutdown. What had been set to expire March 8th will now expire March 22nd. So we have a couple of more weeks to go on the other 6 bills that are needed to fund the rest of the government. So there's progress being made, real full year funding packages available for members to vote on. And you have to mark that as some form of progress, given what we've been going through till now.
Because so many bills seem to have been agreed to by leadership and so on, and I'm thinking of aid to Ukraine, but it dies, because of the split of the Republican Party in the House. Is that likely to happen this time, or will we actually pass stuff?
This looks like a classic compromise where Republicans got a few things they wanted, Democrats got some things they wanted, and they are all talking about the elements of the bill that are wins for them. So I think we'll see a bipartisan vote for it. That doesn't mean that everyone will be supporting it, though. There will probably be a significant Republican opposition to this, but they're using a 2/3 majority threshold in the House, and they're going to have to get there with a combination of Republicans and Democrats.
And what do we know about the bill? Any of the particulars being coming into view at this point with respect to how much for which agency?
Yeah, I mean, there's some pretty good, it's a $436 billion package, about 26% of the total, according to our team that's crunched some of the numbers. And it's going to fund the Agriculture Department, Commerce, Justice, Energy, Interior, VA, Transpo HUDs. There's some pretty big chunks of the government there across those 6 bills. There's a boost for the WIC program, which was a big win for Democrats. There's a boost for VA medical health care, things like that. But there are some cuts. For example, the Republicans touted a 6% cut to the FBI. And another small cut, but at least a cut to some of the Amtrak programs that they wanted to see some adjustments made to. So there are some puts and takes in this, and a classic kind of compromise, but overall it will get these 6 bills and the agencies under them going for the rest of the year.
And with respect to what was appropriated eventually for 2023, is it up, down, or about level?
The overall deal has a little bit of a boost, but defense kind of went up in a direction that most people felt comfortable with. It's going to have more non-defense spending than Republicans would like, but perhaps less than the administration would have liked in its budget request for fiscal 2024, the year we're in now. We're quickly going to be turning to the 2025 request, but in this case, again, I think I've said it a couple times. It's that classic compromise where you don't get everything you want, but you get a good chunk.
Yeah, usually the administrations by tradition is supposed to be out with its next year request yet, but I imagine this administration, like so many in recent years, will not be on time.
Yeah, we're looking at a March 11th release for that, about a week from now. So right in the middle of these two spending packages. It's going to be really hard to compare, but we'll do our best, obviously, when that document hits our hands.
And so, again, to reiterate, the vote this week would be on those things that were to expire last week. But they are still yet to vote on those that would be expiring on the 8th at the end of this week.
The things that are expiring are a mix of bills that had originally that March 1 and March 8th deadline. Those 6 will be taken care of. The other 6 will expire March 22nd at this rate, causing a 23rd shutdown. But they're working to get those bills done. Although defense is in there, Homeland Security, which is particularly tricky right now with the border and funding the agencies that operate there. So I think a significant amount of work remains to be done on those, but they'll take the win on this one, try to get it through the House and the Senate, and go on with some other things.
And you said there was a slight cut to the FBI. What about their new headquarters? Is there any funding for that in there? I mean, that's still not quite resolved thoroughly where it is they're going to relocate to.
Right. I don't think that's been, I don't think they're going to get the boost that perhaps they hoped for that. But there is some construction funding in there, as I understand it.
All right. And so what's the schedule look like for taking up those things that the expiration is now the 22nd?
So we'll be waiting to see that, waiting for them to finalize and release those bills. Congress likes a deadline, so maybe we won't see that for another week or two. This is going to be a busy week just processing this first package, but appropriators are already turning towards that other one.
And they have published the bills that they're going to be voting on. So if someone wanted to start digging through the numbers agency by agency are in there.
They are. It's about 1,000+ pages of bill text, and then a lot of other materials that you really need to look at to understand what's in there.
Yeah, is there a lot of policy in there, do we know? Or is it simply the spending, the appropriations to back up what had been in authorizing bills earlier?
There's a few spending provisions policy provisions of note. The DEI riders that the Republicans that wanted, most of those fell out. There is a rider in there to limit how the VA shares information with the gun registry, which had been a big sticking point, something they were working on, and then other provisions like that. But it's all those riders that Republicans had put in the bills they wrote in committee. A lot of those fell out over the course of this process.
So they fell out, and these were desired by the more conservative end of the Republican Party. Are we going to have the same speaker in the next couple of weeks as we've had to this point heretofore?
I mean, that only takes one person to force that vote. We'll have to see. I mean, there's a lot they want to get done, and with these other spending bills, Ukraine and other agenda items. So that's on a lot of minds, to be sure.
And you mentioned Homeland Security will be in that second tranche of bills for those things that expire in the 22nd of March. Homeland Security has been under a lot of Republican fire, the impeachment vote, so that one could be a little tough, couldn't it?
I think that's the toughest one that's outstanding. At labor, HHS, education, a lot of social funding, tough too, but definitely those border politics that have held up the Ukraine bill are going to bleed over into that package as well. And it'll be a tough one to wrap up. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the last thing they're working on.
But it'll be a little bit happier on the Hill, at least this week.
This week, busy too. President's up there Thursday for State of the Union. There's elections that people are watching. So should be a busy, interesting, maybe happier week. We'll see.
Loren Duggan is Deputy News Director at Bloomberg Government. We'll post this interview at federalnewsnetwork.com/Federal Drive. Subscribe to the Federal Drive wherever you get your podcasts.